Alright guys, this is my first attempt at trying to tune my ATS Allison conversion. Like they said in the videos, it's completely open source. You get a base calibration that you have full control over, so the TCMs you get are not going to be locked, so that's really cool. So on this side I have essentially a base calibration, and on this side of my monitor I have my modification. So just kind of real quick to go through this stuff, try to keep the camera focused. And I'd never tuned a transmission before, so if you watch this and you're a transmission tuner, you'll probably notice that I'm kind of just clicking around. So you got your general options here. This basically just shows you all the different gear positions, well, gear ratios. Doubt you'll have to play with any of that. Your part throttle shifts. So this is basically, if you're just cruising, you're not going wide open throttle. What I find really interesting, well, this one has a lot of modes. Let me see here, find a different one. Alright, so if you have a CA conversions kit, they talk about how you don't really need to tune it, or you don't need a tow haul mode, and you don't have a lot of abilities from the controller. Well, that's because they use the industrial TCU. The industrial TCU that I've seen generally is found between like a bread van with a 4BT Cummins and an ISB 3.9. They're 130 horsepower motors with 355 pounds of torque. They're not really rated for vehicles like a Ram. But what's interesting is with the GM TCU, you get 4 operating modes. You'll see pattern A, B, C, and D. A is normal, B is tow haul, C is 4-wheel low, and D is hot transmission mode. And if you come down here, so right now I have just going to click, let's say, this first shift pattern. So if you come down here, you'll see pattern A, B, C, and D. So, and they're reflecting these colors, which you may not be able to see on my screen. But basically what it's saying is if you're full throttle, wide open throttle, it's going to shift pattern A, it's in kilometers, let's go to miles per hour, at 16 miles an hour. Now, that's just your normal driving mode. Pattern B is your tow haul mode, and then pattern C is your 4-wheel low. So these other two patterns, they don't have to be tow haul and they don't have to be 4-wheel low. Your imagination's the limit. Hook up a toggle switch and they can become race modes. It can be whatever you guys want, sled pull modes. So just because they say you don't need tow haul, well, it's literally just a second option. So you can drive around tow haul all the time and have bad fuel economy, or have an economy mode and then a tow mode. I mean, it's really, really cool. Lots of options. If you watch some YouTube videos, and it doesn't matter which product you have, whether it be CA conversions, PCS, D-stroked, when you're doing full throttle pulls, you'll see the engine just kind of wind out and then it just accelerate, and it doesn't really shift to fourth, or maybe it doesn't shift to fifth, and sometimes it doesn't shift to sixth. Well, that's because if you look at here, now this is the upshift wide open throttle, fifth to sixth. It's looking for 3,200 RPMs, and if I go to fourth to fifth, 3,200 RPMs, and so on. So a Cummins generally doesn't go that high, unless you really wind the motor out, where the Duramax will rev up to, I think, like 6,000 RPMs. So that's one of the reasons. The second reason is, if you look here, so I just clicked on 5.6 upshift speed. Now this is the vehicle speed. Even though it says kilometers on the top, don't worry about that. That's just their graphic. There's a display units there. I have selected miles per hour. It will not shift until, 6th gear, until 86 miles an hour. So what I did, where's my mouse? There it is. Full throttle shifts. So 5th to 6th. So I did this for all of them, from 6th all the way to 2nd. That's downshifts. There we go. Yeah, so 5th to 6th RPM. I set all my values to 2275, so essentially 1,000 RPMs lower. And that's just because our torque band is so much lower, so hopefully it works. And then for shift speed, so I just clicked on, come on, focus. That's my 5th to 6th shift, and I set at 75. So what I did here is I started at 15. So first gear to second gear, wide open throttle, 15 miles an hour. It's going to try to shift. 30 to second to third, 45 from third to fourth, 60 from fourth to fifth, and 75 from fifth to sixth. Like I said, I'm not a transmission tuner. I'm just kind of clicking around. I'm going to throw on my truck and see what happens. And then you get up to your part throttle. Now this is kind of like you're cruising around town. You're not going wide open throttle. Probably like 80-90% throttle or less. And what I did here, so A is my normal pattern, and I basically just put 10 10 10 11 11 11 12 12 12 13 13 13, and then I kind of walked it up. So when you go the second gear into third, same thing, 20s, 30s, 40s, and then 50. So 50 miles an hour, I should start getting kicked into sixth gear. Now, the downshifts, it's kind of the same principle, but it's kind of backwards. So I haven't done anything with this one yet. This is all still the factory numbers. But what I want to do is just drive around my truck a little bit and try to feel where the speed is. Because what I want is when it downshifts from fifth to sixth, fifth to fourth, and so on, I want to try to keep my engine RPMs at around 2,000 for each downshifts. And this is like off throttle, just downshift because you're cruising, cruising to a stop. And the idea is with the exhaust brake on, you'll get about max exhaust pressure around 2,000 RPMs. So at 2,000 RPMs, you should see anywhere from 50 to 60 PSI. And what I'm seeing now is I'll stay in 6 to about 45, and then it starts rapidly dropping down. And my engine speed is only between like 12 and 1,500 RPMs, and my exhaust pressure isn't as high as where I think it should be. And by doing this, I think it'd be a lot better. Let's see here. Let's talk about the torque converter. I'm kind of disappointed here. I could have sworn I read online, or I saw some videos where guys were talking about how they can do first gear locked. But it doesn't even offer an option for second gear. Second gear locked would have been really nice too. So I don't know if it's just an issue with EFI Live or it physically won't do it. So I kind of did the same thing. I actually copied the tow haul patterns and I just put them into normal patterns. And the goal here for me, I think, is I just want to keep the converter locked. I don't think there's any real reason to unlock it. Unless you're doing like going from like 6th gear locked and then you floor it and then it wants to drop all the way to 4th and have the engine RPMs take off. Maybe in that case have it unlocked, but for the most part I think it should be better locked. Yeah, there's some other options in here that I don't really think matter. My camera won't focus now, but like you can adjust your speedometer settings. I don't really think this really matters because the vehicle speed sensor, pulse per revolution, that's actually the tail housing of the Allison. The drive ratio calculations, not sure where that's at because it has that actually might be your because here's your transfer case load ratio. So I don't know what the final drive ratio is. But yeah, now this is definitely really cool. If you have a hopped up truck, and it doesn't even have to be performance, it can just be taller gears, bigger tires, you probably won't be satisfied unless you have the ability to actually tune the TCU. And if you don't want to tune it yourself, I mean, you have oh man, what's that company called? I think it's Duramax Tuner. That's pretty much all they do is Duramaxes, and so I'm willing to bet if you give them guys a call and say, hey look, I have a Ram, this size tires, this is what the engine is currently rated for, and I just put an Allison in there, they'll probably give you a one-off tune for that. Or you could be like me and just kind of spend a few $100 because you have to buy a V2, and then you'll from EFI Live, and then you have to buy their GM tuning license. So they don't have individual license for the TCUs like they do for the ECUs, but you still have to have the GM option for tuning. So that kind of sucks. But yeah, totally cool, man. So hopefully this kind of gives you guys an idea if you're not familiar with it. Thanks.